Hello, everyone. I'll do a video newsletter this week. So on Monday, we had our music sharing assembly, which was a total hit across the board. I know lots of children were just over the moon to be able to share their musical talents, but those musical talents couldn't be nurtured without the hard work of Bonnie Brayley, who put it all together. I know you're used to Bonnie in this school, but I'm not. I'm not used to having someone put so much into music across school and organise all of our peripatetic teachers. I mean, we've got so many now that Bonnie's insisted on building a new music room as well. So that's on our agenda, and we are building a new music room to kind of offer as much music as we possibly can. There is so much in learning an instrument, in how children develop and how children kind of apply that learned experience to other aspects of their life. But let me tell you, she's not typical. She's not normal. She doesn't exist in other schools. And we are deeply, deeply grateful for the work that she's done across the school. And I can tell you that, in a time where congregation has lessened, that, there've been fewer people come together, when I sit in my office and I hear that choir sing, socially distanced in different corners of the halls, of course, it is just so humbling, so touching. So thank you so much for our music assembly and for all of those who took part. I'll tick off my list. My next is Italy. So our Year 4 teachers are going to Italy this week as part of the Erasmus scheme. This is a kind of held over funding from the EU pot. The Erasmus is, funded by the EU, and I think there's going to be a UK equivalent. But this scheme has been long in place, arranged by Alison Bass, who's done a wonderful job. I was due to go this week, and this is kind of a public apology to Alison as well, that I've stepped out at the very, very last minute. We do have. You're bored of me saying this. We've got staffing issues, and it's important that I'm in school this week as well. So as much as I'd like to be, engaging with our colleagues in Europe as well, so I'm going to stay here. But our Year 4 team are off there, and they're going to bring back a wealth of ideas and experiences, and that's about us kind of reaching out beyond North Devon as well. We're rural, we're isolated, and so sometimes we want to kind of look with India and Uganda with the Erasmus scheme, which is Italy, Croatia, Portugal, I think, certainly Turkey, and that gives us an experience to have those other cultures kind of impact on our lives, to learn about other people. So it's really, really exciting. I'll talk very, very briefly about what I think has been called recovery funding, what has been called catch-up funding. I think now the preferred term is keep-up funding. It's a really interesting thing, and I think I said this a little while ago, which is the evidence base is obviously only just coming in about what the impacts were of lockdowns and everything like that. It's thrown up some really interesting things which obviously affect our strategy. So one of the interesting things is on a national level. I'm not talking about Pilton Blue Coat specifically, and we've got to be cautious when we generalise national data to the small sample size of Pilton Blue Coat. But on a national level, writing has, or at least the average level of writing, has slightly improved compared to where it was 2 years ago. Now, there's a story behind this as well, because you go, how? How is that possible? Don't schools do anything? Yes, we do. We do lots. But one of the things that's happened is, we kind of imagine our bell curve of achievement with the vast majority in the middle and then kind of some outliers, is that bell curve has just got wider over time as well. So that's kind of pushed the average up. But what's really going on there is that at the bottom end of children who receive, say, specialist intervention and support in schools, we're not all trained dyslexia specialists at home, but most schools have someone who is capable of kind of plugging in, or have a school-wide strategy to deal with someone with dyslexia, or school-wide strategy to deal with someone who has dyscalculia or something like that. And so what's happening there is, of course, that some children who haven't received that specialist intervention as part of, say, an SCN support plan, they've dipped behind as well. So they're behind where we would expect them to be on their normal trajectory. that's on a national level. I'm not talking about Blue Coat, but I think we can see that that's an area for investigation for us. Now, whisper it, but at the top end of achievement, this is something that's come out, which I don't think many people were expecting, which is at the top end of our achievement, children did slightly better. So really, really able writers, and we're just talking about writing here, did slightly better than they'd done 2 years ago, back when they'd just been in school. Now, my inference, and I don't know how valid this is, my inference is that they probably got a lot more adult one-to-one than they ever would have in a classroom as well. So I can't dismiss that. I can't go, they never get one-to-one because they're in a class of 30 and, there may be, we want to kind of divert our resources elsewhere. We can't do that. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to consider as a school, as part of our Keep Up strategy, how do we maintain the momentum of those top writers? Now that we've seen that actually they've done a little bit better with that increased support, how do we manage that in school? And so that's part of our thinking with our catch-up strategy. And our catch-up strategy is always published. Keep Up strategy, not catch-up. Our Keep Up strategy and the funding, because we're accountable to that funding, is published on the website as well. But that's now part of our thinking. So if you see in that document, Mr. Pollack's now talking about top-end people as well as people who have been struggling traditionally, that's part of the reason, because we want to maintain the momentum. We've seen now an opportunity. Now, one of the things that is a big priority, so reading, fantastic, it's been brilliant, keep reading. Reading has fared so well compared with previous years. In fact, our data for reading has been barely affected by lockdown whatsoever, and that's been fantastic. And I think enormous credit to Mrs. Dadswell, who's done just a phenomenal job. But credit to you, parents who are getting your children reading, who are reading with your kids, who are accessing, the books on offer here and everything like that. And, every week we have more books. Every week we have more books on the shelves, and we want to connect as many books with children as possible. I know many of you will have children who are recipients of the vending machine books and everything like that. But, right, here's the last bit. And I know I'm talking for I will stop in a second. Right, automaticity, right? That's the automatic recall of key facts. Now, when we're reading, when we build up our phonological knowledge, it becomes more automatic. We're not really kind of thinking about decoding as we're reading. That becomes automatic. And it's the same with things in maths, and maths completely is built on this automatic recall of facts. Number facts, like number bonds to 10, 7 and 3, like 7, 8 to 56. Now, times tables are something that you don't want people to agonize about. You don't want people to think about. Rote learning doesn't teach it particularly well. But what does, if your child is struggling with their times tables, is this book here, which is Times Fables. It's one of the weirdest books you'll ever come across. And it's a number of, so each of the characters in this book represents a number. We will be using this in school. So, for example, a chair, which has 4 legs and kind of is a little shaped like a chair in the book, represents the number 4. And then it's a series of vignettes, like little weird images of a snowman on a chair. So the chair is 4, snowman represents the number 8, and the snowman gets the 3 buttons and the 2 gloves. And learning these quite discordant images, learning these really kind of visceral images sometimes as well. Like, it really plugs into our memory. I mean, my background is in neuroscience, I have a master's in neuroscience. And so I was particularly interested in how this might work when it was first recommended to me a few years ago. I did this with one of my classes, and their times table recall was the best I'd ever seen. Now, You don't have to kind of constantly talk about the numbers. You just need to read it with your child. And some of this stuff sticks really, really well because it's tethered to something that's moving and so something that feels a bit more real as well than just the kind of arbitrary fact of what 7/8 is as well. So Times tables, it is something that we're going to plug into in school, but this is part of our strategy to make sure that automaticity is on our agenda. You don't want kids to think about what 7/8s are. You want them to know what 7/8s are so they think about the more reasoning aspects of maths, the interesting stuff behind maths as well. So that's my recommendation. I've hit 10 minutes, so I better stop now. Have a lovely weekend.